just to enlighten you, the reason why I had sent that information to you, because we're going to go over it, which is the Etymology Dictionary, which is the beginning of words, English words, where they originally come from, which is in England. All right, for Anglo-Saxon. England means Anglo or Anglo-Saxon. So many people do not realize that up in England, we were the true kings in England. England was black at one time. So a lot of the words are generated from us. And then we died in the bubonic plague. A lot of us died there, and there was a lot of uproars where we were getting killed by the Edomites up in England. If you need to learn more about that, there's a book called Ancient Britons. Ancient Britons, I believe the author name is David MacRitchie. David MacRitchie. It's called Ancient and Modern Britons. There's a volume 1 and there's a volume 2. Very, very interesting book. It's kind of a hard read, but when you read it, he talks about all the generations of black kings and nobility in England. First thing first, let's go into the scriptures and find color. I'm not going to bring all the color verses out, but just a few. And we normally stick to the color of finding black in the scriptures, but this time we're going to stick to finding the color bronze and brown and copper instead of black, because we all know where the black verses are in the scriptures. But we're going to go to Revelation Chapter 1, verse 13. Revelation 1 and 13. And we're going to read down to 15. And I hope you brothers and sisters are writing this stuff down. It reads, "And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto the Son of Man, clothed with a garment down to the foot, and girt about the paps with a golden girdle." This is Yahushua. This is John the Revelator, who was an eyewitness to this. In the spirit, he saw this. Verse 14. "His head and his hairs were white like wool." Describing Yahushua's hair, they're white like wool. And sheep have woolly hair, as white as snow. Sheep and the Negro have woolly hair. "And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and his feet like unto fine brass, as if they burned in a furnace, and his voice as the sound of many waters." So in this particular verse, in verse 15, it talks about his feet shining like brass, fine brass. Okay, so this is a color, brass. So in the Etymology Dictionary, let's look up the word brass, and let's see what comes up. Brass, it reads, yellow, malleable alloy metal, harder than copper. Harder than copper. Old English brass, bronze, originally any alloy of copper. In England, usually with tin, they mix it. Remember what Nebuchadnezzar's dream? How all the different metals were mixed together to form the fourth beast? It says this is now called bronze. Later and in modern use, an alloy of roughly 2 parts copper to 1 part zinc, a mystery word, with no known cognate beyond English. See that? This is the first word of this. So they had to, when they translated from the Hebrew to the Greek to the English, this is what it came out to. Bronze. Not white, not red, but bronze or brass. Okay, let's drop down to the 3rd paragraph if you're looking at the same thing I'm looking at. It starts off when works. Okay, now it says when works of Greek and Roman antiquity in brass began to be critically examined and their material discriminated, the Italian word for brass was bronze. See that? Y'all know the color of bronze. Brown, dark brown. Came into use to distinguish this ancient brass from the current alloy. The current alloy was yellow, malleable alloy metal. Okay? But the ancient brass was brown. See that? Because remember, he said they mixed it with tin. Radically or figuratively, it was the common type of hardness, durability, or obscurity since late 14th century. All right, I just want y'all to see that. All right, and so all of this started out around 1600. They were trying to come up with the right color, right? But bronze is the same thing. So now let's look up the word bronze. And before we do that, I sent you a little picture of Western African history. Did y'all get that? Western African history. Yeah, actually, you can open up your mics now. I'm gonna just kind of go through this. If you look at the picture I sent, okay, it's called Western African History, and there's two pictures. There's one with writing. Starts off with Hughes Crow, which was a captain of a ship, English ship. And the second paragraph talks about the inhabitants of Africa who were called Igbo. Okay, now the Igbos were Hebrews. It's another word for he. It's a decrepit word for Hebrew. So I'm going to read the second paragraph. It says, the inhabitants of Bani, which was a kingdom, when our author last visited that port, amounted to about 3,000. They are chiefly a mixture of the Igbo or Hebo and the Brass tribes. This lets you know what Brass truly is. It's us. The latter deriving their name from the importation into their country, which lies to the northward and westward of Bani, of a kind of European-made brass pans. Why are they saying that? Because up in Europe, they made a lot of brass pans. Okay, now this is in 1760. Now we were dwelling in England way before this time. So who was making the brass pans? It was us. That was a craft that we had. Okay, if you drop down, it says the Igbos is highlighted. Neighboring countries have already been spoken of as a superior race, and the inhabitants generally are a fair-dealing people and much inclined to a friendly traffic with Europeans who humor their peculiarities. So we were even nice to the European people. See that? But we were considered a superior people, the Igbos, the Hebrews. We're going to pick up where we left off at, and let's go to their general honesty. And again, we are on page 199, and it reads, their general honesty when the loose nature of their laws as respects Europeans, and the almost entire absence of the moral influence of religion among them. See, now they're trying to say that they don't have any religion. See? Now remember, this was put together in 1765 through 1829. They're trying to say that we didn't have any religion, and we didn't. We kept what? The Most High's laws, statutes, and commandments. We didn't have a religion. We didn't have Christianity or Catholicism. We didn't have any of that. So no, we didn't have a religion. It says, and the almost entire absence of the moral influence of religion amongst them are considered affords a favorable prognostic of what the Negro character would be if placed under the restraints and precepts of an enlightened system of jurisdiction. Remember when the conquistadors came to the Americas? The people here had temples, pyramids. They had laws already. They already had rules, even though it may have been paganistic and they had went away from the Most High's laws, okay, over a period of time. But prior to that, they were keeping the Most High's laws. Let me show you something real quick in this book here. On page 131, we're going to read, it says here, it reads, for the Negro race, more than any other, was the victim of the great discoveries. What discoveries? Gold, brass, diamonds. Check it out. The European Renaissance. What was the European Renaissance? The European Renaissance was the whitewashing of all the black nobles in Europe. It means to start anew, to erase the prior kingdoms. Okay, the European Renaissance was built on the ruins of African Negro civilization. Do you see that? We ruled in Africa, we ruled in Spain, we ruled in Portugal, we ruled in Germany, we ruled in England. The force of America has waxed fat on Negro blood and sweat. The slave trade cost Africa 200 million dead. But who can tell what cultural wealth was lost? See that? Who can tell? They ain't gonna tell you. This is a new kingdom. They don't want you to know anything about the prior kingdoms. We're gonna come back to where we were reading, but we're gonna go to page 26. Page 26 in the same book. This is on page 26, and it reads, "Of such were the stories which I heard daily in plenty. The wares for which there is a demand here are many." Talking about where? Where's the demand? Coming from West Africa, because the Israelites were there. Remember, we took everything with us, our laws, our statutes, our cultures. We had carpenters, we had plumbers, we had architects, we had everyone here in West Africa. So everyone came to us for commodities. Let me read this again. It says, "The wares for which there is a demand here are many, but the principal articles are copper and salt in slabs." Remember, Abraham fought with the 5 kings over salt. So we were masters of taking salt and recreating things with salt. This is, and salt in slabs. We sold salt slabs. Everyone needs salt. You need salt to live. He said that we are the salt of the earth. Bars and cakes. Right? All salt slabs, bars. This is all salt. We sold that to keep the trade going in West Africa. Look who we sold to. It says, "The copper of Romania, the Byzantine Empire, which is obtained through Alexandria," which is up there in Greece, "is always in great demand throughout the land of the blacks." Where's the land of the blacks? Negro land, West Africa. "I frequently inquired what they did with it, but no one could give me a definite answer. I believe it is that there are so many peoples that there is almost nothing but is of use to them. The Egyptian merchants come to trade in the land of the blacks, with 500,000 head of cattle and camels, a figure which is not fantastic in this region." So when we were reading last week in the books where the Portuguese and the Spaniards were coming to and fro to West Africa from Lisbon, dropping off Jewish Israelite slaves in West Africa, where were they taking them? We already had things set up in West Africa. They were already trading and exporting things from West Africa. And they didn't have brothers in slavery. They didn't have a Fort Negro or Fort Wida. Wida was a country. It wasn't just a fort. People think Wida was just some little city. No, it was a country. You know how many countries are in Africa? It's a continent full of countries. Not like America, one country full of states. Let's go back to page 199. And we're going to read where we left off at. It says, "It is probable, and this opinion is entertained by Captain Adams and others, that Bonny and the towns of the low line of the coast on either side of it were originally people from the Igbo country, and that before the commencement of the slave trade, if it then existed, the inhabitants employed themselves in the making of salt." See that? By evaporation from seawater. The only way to get salt is to trap it from the seawater up on the shores.
East of the Salt Flats is another remnant of Lake Bonneville, the Great Salt Lake. And into Riek Lake, 3 major rivers flow into it and deposit their minerals. Having no outlet, these minerals are trapped there and become concentrated as the water escapes to evaporation. This has resulted in the Great Salt Lake having around 27% salinity, almost 8 times as much salt as the ocean. All around the Great Salt Lake are several companies that extract various minerals from the lake salts, evaporating them in large pools. To get some of these salts myself, I stopped at the beach to collect some brine. This is the most disgusting beach I've ever been on. There are bugs everywhere. The water is filled with...
The Igbos were masters at this. The country says Adams, for many miles into the interior, is a vast morass, heavily timbered and unfit, without excessive labor to produce sufficient food for a very scanty population. And as the trade in slaves increased, these towns, particularly Bonny, grew into importance. The king of New Calabar in the neighborhood and Pepi, king of Bonny, were both of Igbo descent. These are Hebrews, of which also are the mass of the natives. And the number of the slaves from the Igbo country, which throughout the existence of the British trade were taken from Bonny, amounted to perhaps 3/4 of the whole export. Perhaps 3/4 of the whole export. Amounted to perhaps 3/4 of the whole export. It is calculated that no fewer than 16,000 of these people alone were annually exported from Bonny within the 20 years ending in 1820. Did we have evil people in West Africa that were Hebrews? Absolutely. They had lost their way. They had got greedy. So it says 16,000 of these people alone were annually exported from Bonny within the 20 years ending in 1820. So this is when we had got totally corrupted in West Africa. Africa was through pretty much in the 1500s. 1500s on down, Africa was pretty much destroyed. They had no knowledge of themselves at that particular time. The Europeans had overran that country, or overran that continent. Okay, I'm going to take you to this book. Now, a lot of you have heard of this brother. His name is John Henry Clark. This brother was brilliant. This brother was a scholar in his time. He lost his eyesight, and he was still able to quote books that he read verbatim. He had a photographic memory. John Henry Clark. He just died about maybe 10 years ago. John Henry Clark. Now, I'm going to go to page 18 in this book, and I want you to see something about Europe, what he said. And this is from his studies. And mind you, let me tell you one thing. When it comes to our history, a lot of brothers like to look over brothers who were philosophers, who were scholars here in America in the 1950s, 60s, and 70s. But let me tell you, everything that we've been coming out with, these brothers had already done. They have already visited the land of Africa, Jerusalem. They've already done their studies and their research. They've already picked apart books. But for some reason, because we see skin color and skin tone on these brothers, that we put it to the side. These brothers have already, these brothers were brilliant. They already did the studies. So a lot of stuff that we're bringing out, we're regurgitating, like Spain, us being in Spain and Europe. Things like when we were in Spain, France, and Portugal, and England, that we were ruling, these brothers already did the research. All you have to do is read their books. They put all the footnotes at the bottom of the books. A lot of people are like amazed because we're bringing out certain things. And yes, a lot of us are doing our diligent studies and doing research. But you cannot look over the brothers who've already done the research either. Like Rudolph Windsor, John Henry Clark. What's the school in New York? It's called the Stromberg University. You cannot look over brothers like that. These brothers were sharp as a tack. And very, very serious. They weren't joking a lot. These brothers were serious. Most people don't like brothers that are serious. They are scared of brothers who are serious. And so is Esau. Now I'm going to read this. And this is the bottom of the page. It reads, for more than 1,000 years, the Africans have been bringing into being empire after empire until the second rise of Europe. Second rise. What was the first rise? The Greek and Romans. Then it fell apart. Then the so-called blacks was ruling because we were the Jews, the Israelites. We were ruling in Europe after Septimius Severus. So I'm going to read. It says, the second rise of Europe, internal strife and the slave trade turned what was an age of grandeur of the Africans into an age of tragedy and decline. And that's what the grandeur of Africa was. Certain events in Europe and in Africa set this historical period in motion. In this respect, no year was more important than 1492. This year keeps popping up. The 15th and the 16th centuries were both good and bad for Africa. The great nation states in Africa, especially in Western Africa, rose to their height and began to decline. Europe partly recovered from the trouble of the Middle Ages and began to expand into the broader world. Y'all see that? Just so y'all know that Africa fell apart. So if y'all want to go over there and interview brothers in certain parts of Africa, a lot of them brothers don't know nothing. They don't have any knowledge of their history other than the last 300 years of chaos and destruction. You got to go deeper. And like I said, a lot of brothers have already done the work. Serious brothers, not goofy playing brothers who ain't did no research. We're dead serious here. I had mentioned something before, maybe last week when I put up a video not too long ago, and I mentioned how the so-called white men could not penetrate Africa. Okay, now I'm going to bring forth the evidence. And it's in this book. This is one reference. I got a bunch of them, but this is one reference. And I've been showing you the book the whole time. It's Western African History. If you go into page, and I'm gonna put it up on the screen, but it says, this is page 152. It says, the awakening of the European interest in West Africa. It says, with few exceptions, Europeans during the first 300 years of contact with West Africa, that's from 1300 to 1700. I'm sorry, I'm not doing the math correctly. From 1500 to 1800. With few exceptions, Europeans during the first 300 years of contact with West Africa never developed any sustained interest in the interior. To them, the coast represented a forest curtain behind which resided ferocious populations and tropical fevers. See that? I wasn't lying to you. That earned West Africa the reputation of the white man's grave. See? Moreover, there seemed to be no reward in the interior to justify the risk of penetration. So all these people saying, oh, the white man had forts in West Africa. He had plantations. He couldn't even penetrate the interior of West Africa. He would get sick. Didn't you just see what we read? It said it was the white man's grave. Moreover, there seemed to be no reward in the interior to justify the risk of penetration. The earlier promises of gold and wealth have been better met elsewhere in the world, in the Orient and in the Americas. Where's the Orient? That's Jerusalem. The slave trade, it is true, brought handsome profits, but the system of African procurers and middlemen seemed adequate for the exploitation of Africa's human resources without direct intervention by Europeans. With the rise of empires, control of overseas territories were frequently justified on strategic grounds, but in West Africa, any such political ends were easily met by controlling the coastal stations. So they had to control the coastal stations, which meant they had to hire people and send them into West Africa to empower the slave trade. All right, so let's go back to where we were. So that including 50,000 taken within the same period from the New and Old Calabar, the aggressive export of Igbos alone was not short of 370,000. The Igbos, though not generally a robust, are a well-formed people of the middle stature. Many of their women are of remarkably symmetrical shape, beautiful women. And if white would in Europe be deemed beautiful, he's saying if our women were so-called Caucasians, they'd be considered beautiful. That's how beautiful our women were. Our caste already looked at, remember the book that I brought out last week called Black Haiti? When the men came off the ships, the Edomite people thought that they were mixed with Jews. No, that was the way that we looked. Our caste, our build is similar to Esau. Our facial features, everything is similar to Esau. The way we grow our hair, we just don't grow it long like Esau. That's why we're hated, right? Because of our skin complexion. This race is as has been already remarked, of a more mild and engaging disposition than the other tribes, particularly the Quals. And though less suited for the several manual labor of the field, they are preferred in the West India colonies for their fidelity and utility as domestic servants. Basically, the Europeans wanted the Igbos more than any other people in West Africa because of their skill level and because of their mannerisms. Okay? All right. That's all I wanted to bring out on that. This is coming from the so-called white man. All right, now let's look at bronze in the Etymology Dictionary. So now we know when it says that Yahushua's feet was like fine brass, we know it's talking about his complexion, because if you see his feet, then the rest of his body is the same color. All right? Bronze in the Etymology Dictionary. It says 1721, alloy of copper and usually a smaller amount of tin. It's saying the same thing. From French bronze, from Italian bronzo, from medieval Latin bronzium, which is of uncertain origin. All right. I want to go back. Let's go down. Yeah, let's go down to bronze. The five is V for 5. Bronze. You guys see that? Any of y'all see that in the Etymology Dictionary? You guys looking at what I'm looking at? Yeah. Okay. Okay. It starts off with 1640s. Yeah, it says bronze, 1640s. Give the color of appearance of bronze to, from French bronzer, or else from bronze, figuratively of fillings, hearts, to harden like bronze, meaning to be brown or bronze in color. Y'all see that, right? Brown or bronze in color. So what do Yahushua look like? He look like us. This is our brother. This is our brother. Okay. I just want y'all to see that, so y'all don't get all messed up when somebody says, "Oh no, he wasn't bronze, he wasn't brass." It's all the same thing. You know what I mean? Brass and bronze the same. Okay. Okay. Now let's go to Revelation 2:18. I want to show you another verse. Revelation 2:18. And unto the angel of the church in Thyatira write, these things saith the Most High, the Son of the Most High, who hath his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass. So he made sure they put it in there twice so they couldn't change it. So when you get like a NIV book, they might take it out of Revelation chapter 1, but go to Revelation chapter 2 and you find it again. Okay? That's why things are written twice in the scriptures. Because he knew the enemy. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 1. Let's see what the angels look like. Let's see if they were white. I mean, color is really not a big thing because the scriptures are not really dwelling on it. But we have to bring forth this information to shun them. Ezekiel chapter 1 verse 7. Ezekiel 1:7, and it reads, and their feet, whose feet? These are the angels. And their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like to the sole of calf's foot, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass. See that? Now a lot of people be like, well, he had shoes on, that's why they were shining. So, you have to be able to, you have to fight this, okay? You have to fight this because they come up with stupid stuff like this. So in order to shun them on this, you have to go to Ezekiel chapter 40. Because they'll come up with the wildest stuff because they don't want to believe it and they don't want to let you have the victory. Let's go to Ezekiel chapter 40. And let's go to verse 2. Ezekiel chapter 40, verse 2. And it reads, In the visions of the Most High brought he me into the land of Israel, and set me upon a very high mountain, by which was at the frame of a city on the south. And he brought me thither, and behold, there was a man whose appearance was like the appearance of brass, with a line of flax in his hand, and a measuring reed. And he stood in the gate. And the man said unto me, Son of man, behold with thine eyes. So he saw him with his eyes, and hear with thine ears. He heard him, and set thine heart upon all that I show thee, for to the intent that I might show them unto thee. Art thou brought hither? Declare all that thou seest to the house of Israel. So what did he see? He saw a man in appearance of brass. Y'all see that, right? Just in case brothers try to say, well, he's not bronze. Well, there you are. And bronze looks like brown, dark brown. Let's go to Daniel chapter 10. Daniel chapter 10. And let's read verse 5. Daniel 10 and 5. And it reads, this is the Most High. And it reads, Then I lift up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz. His body also was like the beryl. The beryl is a brown ruby. Okay, so it comes in green and it comes in brown. That's what the colors of beryl. So it couldn't possibly be green. His body also was like beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass. See that? Most High is brown. And the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude. And I, Daniel, alone saw the vision. Daniel saw this. So our people are the same color as the Most High. How many of you brothers and sisters heard of when you see a so-called white person with blonde hair, you know it's blonde. But how about brunette? What do you when you see when someone says, "Oh, she's brunette," what do you think about in your mind?
It's brown.
It's brown, and what's the complexion of the brunette? The skin complexion.
Well, white.
White, exactly. So we're gonna look up. That's right. So like I said, remember all these words started in the beginning of England, and we were the Anglo-Saxons. So let's look up in the Etymology Dictionary the word brunette. B-R-U-N-E-T-T-E. Okay? Let me know when y'all got it. Anybody got it yet? Yeah? Y'all got it? Okay. We're gonna read it. And this is in the Etymology Dictionary. It says brunette. Of a woman dark in complexion, having a brownish tone to the skin and hair. Y'all see that? So what have we been taught? What have we been taught, y'all? What? So a brunette is a brown skinned sister with brown hair. And y'all see many sisters like that.
Right. But they always thought that was white. Okay.
Right. See?
Sure, right.
All right. I just want y'all to see this stuff.
Absolutely.
All right, I'm going to read the whole paragraph. Brunette, of a woman, dark in complexion, having a brownish tone to the skin and hair. 1660s, from French brunette, feminine of brunette, from Old French, so it's a woman, it's not a man. French brunette, brownish, brown hair, dark complexion, feminine, diminutive of brun, brown, of West Germanic origin, from Proto-Germanic brunas. See that? Bright brown. This is a sister. Make you scratch your head, huh? I told you the truth is overwhelming. Okay, so now we're gonna look up another word. We're gonna look up Judas. Remember Judas who turned Hamashiach in? We're gonna type in Judas. All right, so everybody got that? Judas? Okay, so we're gonna read it. Judas, biblical betrayer of Hamashiach. Latin form of Greek, Judaeus. From Hebrew, Yahwadah. See Judah. He was supposed to have had red hair. See that? He's supposed to have had red hair as a name for a malicious traitor. So Judas was like Esau. Y'all see that? Let's go into let's go to Genesis chapter 25. Genesis chapter 25, and let's read verse 21. Genesis 25 and 21. And Isaac entreated the Most High for his wife because she was barren, and the Most High was entreated of him. And Rebekah his wife conceived, and the children struggled together within her, and she said, If it be so, why am I thus? And she went to inquire of the Most High. The Most High said unto her, 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. All right, so breaking news, Judas could have possibly been an Edomite. I said possibly. All right, the Sanhedrin were possibly Edomites too. Judas committed suicide. How many brothers in the truth that you see commit suicide? Is there any?
No, none I know.
How
many brothers? How many brothers you know got red hair? That's not our thing, for sure.
I'll just let y'all know, hey, there's a lot of,
It's a possibility.
you just never know. Yahushua wasn't no dummy. He knew who was in the midst of him.
That's right.
And Esau was next to Jacob. So, hey, you never know. I sent you guys a picture in the Spanish language. Okay? And I know most of you probably don't know Spanish, maybe a little bit, but if you could just blow that up on your phone. We're going to read in the actual Bible, Genesis 25 and 24, and then we're going to look at the Spanish. And so the 24th verse in this is actually, they're right on point, okay? And we're going to read to the 25th verse. So 24 says, And when her days to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red, all over like a hairy garment, and they called his name Esau. Now look at 25 in the Spanish. It says, Y salió el primero rubio, the first came out. The rubio is not red. You guys know how to say red in Spanish? Rojo. So this says rubio. If you type in Rubio in your computer, Rubio means blonde. It says, Y salió el primero rubio. Rubio is blonde. It's not red. So in the Spanish books, remember Latin came before English, they are putting blonde here. telling you Esau was, he had to be an albino of some sort. See that? And era todo valudo como una, so it's saying the same thing. The nation of Esau came from this. Just so y'all can see that. So if anybody doubts you saying that Esau is a white man, go to the Spanish book and pull it out. So we ain't making this thing up. Okay. So we just read all the brass in the Bible. Y'all saw Zondervan's Bible Dictionary. We're going to go to the word Hebrew. If y'all don't have it, I'm going to just read it. And I'm going to go to the word ruddy. Let's go to the word ruddy. Because that's another word in the Bible. It says about King David, he was ruddy. It says ruddy. It says a word used to refer to a red or fair complexion, in contrast to the dark skin of the Hebrews. Okay? So when you hear ruddy, it's not talking about somebody who's Caucasian. It's talking about dark-skinned Hebrews. See that? Dark-skinned Hebrews. All right, so just want to throw some words at y'all so y'all can see. Let's go to the Etymology Dictionary again, and let's pull up the word swarthy. When you hear the word swarthy, it represents, it says here, dark color, especially of skin. 1580s, unexplained altercation of swarthy from swart. So it says also swartzer, black person, somewhat derogatory. Then it throws in this Jewish stuff, 1961 Yiddish, from swartz, black. See swarthy. Perhaps originally a code word to refer to black servants when they were within earshot as German. So when you read old books and you hear about he had a swarthy complexion, it meant that it was a black man. Or if he had the name of Swart at the end of his name, he was probably a black man. Okay? In Baltimore in the 80s of the last century, the German-speaking householders, when they had occasion to speak to Negro servants in their presence, called them die blauws or blues. All right, that's another name for us, blues. In the 70s, I mean, think about the music. What do we call it? The blues. Right? Talk about us, black people, blues. White people can't sing no blues. Only black people sing the blues. Right? Okay. In the 70s, Die Schwartz had been used, but it was believed that the Negroes had fathomed it. Right? So this is where you get the word Schwartz. Schwartz comes from there. The word sweetheart is another word from Schwartz. Okay, so when people say, oh, he's a sweetheart, that means that he was a black guy. Very, very nice black guy. Sweetheart. It don't mean nothing other than that, referring to us. I'm going to pull up one more word. I want you brothers and sisters to go to one more word, and we're going to end this with this. Pull up the word tawny. Tawny. T-A-W-N-Y. Okay. T-A-W-N-Y for tawny. Tawny. T-A-W-N-Y. Tawny. Because we were called tawny too. Okay. All right, so tawny. You see a light-skinned brother, light-skinned sister? This is what they were called, tawny. Tan color, late 14th century, from Anglo-French tawny, of or like the brownish yellow or tan leather, from Old French, dark brown. You see that? Dark brown, tan, tawny. When you see white people, they try to what? Become tawny. They try to get a tan to look like us. Right. So it comes from the word tawny. So our people are swarthy and our people are tawny. All right. Yeah. And so that's going to end the class. Like I said, people are overwhelmed with the truth. It's overwhelming.
This is the word of the Lord of hosts. I took you from the pastures and from following the sheep to be prince over my people Israel. I have been with you wherever you have gone and have destroyed all the enemies in your path. I will make you a great name among the great ones of the earth. I will assign a place for my people in Israel. There I will plant them, and they shall dwell in their own land.